industry. The first feature films, the first romantic films, the first on-screen kisses. Kim Jong-Il even commissions the production of a memorable remake of Godzilla. Born of propaganda, the kidnapped film star works ceaselessly. He orders North Korean diplomats on posting to collect thousands of films, which he watches in his private viewing room. This is the young Kim's only window onto the world.
I've come to believe, and this isn't entirely tongue-in-cheek, that he models his way of being a leader on the basis of heroes in movies, like Shootout in the OK Corral or Shane, that he sees himself walking down the street against the evil enemy and having this shootout. So there's this kind of larger-than-life way he parades on the world stage.
Through film, Kim Jong-Il can approach the most beautiful women of his country. The short air with hang-ups is turning into a seducer.
The first time I met him, I was frightened, and of course sad. Kim Jong-Il appeared. He saw what state I was in and made a joke. "Actress Choi, don't you think I look like a midget?" Everyone laughed at this, and I relaxed, of course. That's his style. It means, yes, he is short, but that he takes into account the state of mind of the person standing before him.
In 1968, Song Yi-rin is one of the stars working for the Pyongyang studios. She has a degree in film, she is a talented and modern actress, a mother, and 4 years older than Kim Jong-il. She becomes the dictator's first mistress. Three years later, a son is born of this secret liaison. His name is Kim Jong-nam, a child who will have to grow up hiding the secrets of his origins.
Kim Jong-il met this actress, Song Yi-rin, and they moved in together. But she was already married and already had a little girl before meeting him, so he couldn't marry her. Kim Il-sung made Kim Jong-il marry a girl with a good background, Kim Yong-sok. The marriage was arranged for appearances.
There are no photographs of this official spouse who will give birth to 2 girls. She still lives in Pyongyang and often travels to Europe. Kim Jong-il's private life is never made public.
I never heard that Kim Jong-il was married. I remember when I was in university, I asked myself, why has our leader, now in his 50s, never married? Why doesn't he have any children? It bothered me, but I couldn't ask anyone. It's too dangerous to mention. My curiosity could bring death to myself and to my family for 3 generations.
In 1975, Kim Jong-il meets a young dancer of the entertainment group for officials. Her name is Ko Young-hee. She will become his official companion, always at his side, replacing the invisible wife. In the 80s, she will give the dictator 2 sons. 2 sons who are now in the midst of a war of succession. Ko Young-hee died in 2004 in Paris, where many dignitaries of the regime come to be treated. The leader owns several residences to care for these different families. His official residence is in Pyongyang, close to Kim Il-sung Square. But on the coast and in the mountains close to the North Korean capital, he owns many houses. To feast them, he hires a Japanese chef. He organizes sumptuous receptions to which the party deputies are invited. He squanders his money.
An interesting source of intelligence from the annual report of the Hennessy Fine Spirits Corporation. Their most expensive cognac is called Paradis. His annual bill for this cognac for the decade 1989 to 1999 was between $650,000 a year and $800,000 a year.
Kim Jong-Il owns 4 companies of young girls, selected and trained solely to entertain the dictator during his evenings. A troupe for his personal pleasure. To become a member of this pleasure group, you must know how to sing, dance, and play music, and most of all, charm Kim Jong-il.
One evening, at the end of the meal, the general asked 4 of the girls to dance beside us. Suddenly he said, "Take off your costumes." They got undressed, keeping their bras and underwear. So he said, "Remove the bra and underwear." They were completely naked. Seeing this, I felt things were beginning to turn sour. He began picking out top executives, asking them to dance with them. 1 top executive, 2, 3, I'm the 4th. He points at me and says, "Dance." I didn't know where to look. They were completely naked. I looked at the ceiling while trying to disco dance. I did everything to avoid looking at those girls.
I was so nervous when I was invited to these evenings. I didn't know what to think. He's our great leader. I danced with him, dined with him. Being so close to him made me lose my bearings.
This is the life of a crown prince following in the footsteps of a father who is gradually letting him take up the reins of power. In 1994, Kim Il-sung is 84. With his son, he prepares a secret summit meeting with South Korea. But a few days before this would-be historic event, he collapses with a heart attack.
Kim Jong-il emerged as the effective next in line back in the 1970s. So there was a period of almost 20 years in which both the elites and the masses were prepared through propaganda campaigns for Kim Jong-il to take power. You know, shown with his father, doing things with his father, getting instructions from his father. Then, for the last 10 years of Kim Il-sung's life, Kim Jong-il effectively operated as the prime minister, running the government on a day-to-day basis.
After 3 years of national mourning, Kim Jong-Il is confirmed as North Korea's new leader. He is not president, since this title is reserved eternally for his father. He's just dear leader, walking in his father's footsteps. But he's not as skillful in controlling the country's armed forces. Kim Il-sung's guerrilla comrades pin impressive medals on their uniforms. They consider that their comrade's son can't control everything by himself.
Kim Jong-Il is the most important person in North Korea and has a great deal of power. However, he cannot take basic decisions on national security matters, on the nuclear negotiations, without consent of his top generals in the National Defense Commission. And so it's a complicated relationship. No outsider knows exactly how it is working. But there have been increasing indications in the past few years that the power of the hardline generals has grown.
For Kim Jong-il, in the face of these old generals, absolute power can be achieved through control of the army. He launches himself on an ongoing tour of all the military units of the country, along with continuous coverage by the state-controlled television. He now calls himself General. For the general, all the economic strife of the country is due to the enemies of the regime. This outside menace is the source of all problems. If North Koreans are famished, it's the fault of the rest of the world, and particularly the USA.
In reality, North Korea had already failed at the time of his father Kim Il-sung. It had failed economically and, to make things worse, found itself on the losing side of the Cold War, which means that at the end of the 80s, with the fall of the Berlin Wall, the countries of Eastern Europe gradually accepted capitalism, as did the communist regimes in Asia, like China. North Korea is the only regime who maintained the status quo.
2 years of floods give the death blow to a system on its last legs. At the end of the 90s, North Korea experiences one of the worst famines in history.
1 million, perhaps even 2 million people died, and yet there was no unrest against the government. There were no uprisings of significant size, and the regime didn't change its behavior. But also we've seen that the result of this malnutrition is that you have an entire generation that is smaller than its predecessor. And that when you compare North Koreans with South Koreans, they are significantly shorter, several inches shorter. And you have an entire generation that is not only physically stunted, but mentally stunted.
Paradoxically, this massive famine strengthens Kim Jong-il's power. The population is terrorized. When North Korea accepts a huge United Nations food aid program, the propaganda gives entire credit to the dear leader, to whom everyone now owes his life. Kim Jong-il reinforces his security and his control over his famished people. He has tunnels dug under the capital to protect his movements. He goes to Moscow and to Beijing to ask for help from his old allies. He fears so much for his life that he travels only by armored train.
The train is protected by rockets, heavy arms. The convoy is always composed of 3 identical trains, and nobody knows which one is occupied by Kim Jong-il. The passage of the train from